Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy. This is my lovely co-star, Justin Johnson.
Yeah.
You're going to have to excuse Justin because our AC is not working properly, and he's hot. Okay, so this week, me and Justin watched a black and white film called Citizen Kane. This film was produced or distributed, whichever, in 1941. A couple things that I would like to point out that stuck out to me in the film. Obviously, I love antiques. He loves antiques. And although the film was in black and white, I very much noticed every one of those lamps. Do I have a couple of those lamps in our house? Absolutely. Anyway, so this film, to me, right, like my opinion, I guess you could say, or my view, my perspective, our perspective of this film this week, which was a little crazy. And I think I'm a very animated and imaginative person, but I think it's safe to say like this movie really was a movie that made you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because movie starts out on his deathbed, drops the snow globe with the little, that was a hint though, with the little log cabin looking house in the snow globe, and he drops it and he says Rosebud. This is his last words. Now, in the beginning, I was like, this is going to be a very boring movie because it was black and white, which I love a black and white movie. I'm not going to lie, because I love westerns. You know that. I love a western.
I love a black and white western, but like a black and white like that, like.
But this was like not an action movie, but very much like rah 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 rah.
It was intense.
Yeah, it was an intense film. So, he drops the globe. He says Rosebud. Now, what I'm thinking, this was my perspective right here. When the movie starts and he drops the glass, and then it's like all these flashes of his life, right? And it's like this person, what was it? What are they called? A natural narrator. I'm not sure about that, so don't judge me. But bless you.
Thank you.
You little evil thing, you.
Thank you.
So it was like being narrated, but in my mind, I was like, is this like a documentary about this guy? You know what I mean? What was his name? Charles Foster Kane. That was his name. And the people called him that too. Not just Charles Kane. No, Charles Foster Kane. It was important to know that. So I thought we're watching a documentary about Charles Foster Kane, because like all these things are being told about him, but all these like little snippets, right, are being told about him, like like from the beginning to the end. But then like all of a sudden, like 15-20 minutes in, like they're all in this freaking newsroom, and they're basically making a story about this guy. So then that's when the story really starts to come about, which I found. Bless
Excuse
you
me.
again. What
I'm
you got
sorry.
going
I
on?
don't know.
So then the movie like really kind of started up, and that's when I got really intrigued, right? Because there were two hints given, okay? Because my first impression of whenever they was all like, who's Rosebud? Who's Rosebud? My first impression was it was his mom. Who did you think it was?
I can't remember.
You definitely thought it was a person, though.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I thought it was going to be his mom.
You know how'd you figure out it wasn't?
Don't worry about it. But anyway, so here's the thing. We're watching it, and then now, it's flashback to, how it's all came about. He's out here in what looked like Colorado. Best snow I've ever seen in my life. I love snow. So I was like, that's nice, The dad's like, why somebody else got to raise my son? The mom's like, stay in your lane,
Yeah.
This don't got nothing to do with you, right? This does not concern you. He's going to him. And like his dad was all like ready to go to war and like fight, right? Like, no, you're not taking my boy. And then the dude was like, we're going to give you $50,000 each a year. And he was like,
I guess it'll be okay.
It'll be fine.
I guess
It'll be fine, right? So then I was like, that was kind of shady. But then, that was the second hint, First hint was the snow globe. Second hint was the flashback, right? So then now we're watching the life of Charles Foster Kane. And he was kind of a jerk a little bit. Kind of full of himself, very smart guy. Probably could have made some better decisions and stuff. But here's the thing. Everybody played their own significant role. And I kept remember, thinking, something's wrong with him. right? Like in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, why does he act like this? But then I also got to thinking, well, he's got all this money. He's always had all this money. Maybe he's just arrogant, right? But then I got to like really thinking, like, why does he act this way? And then when he met the second wife, that's when I realized why he acted that way. Because, right, like, there really wasn't too much of like a backstory, right? Like, obviously, we knew the first wife was a president's daughter, right? So, like, but it wasn't like a backstory like it was with, what was her name? Susan Alexandria?
Yeah.
The
Kane.
singer.
Yeah.
So the little backstory with him and her, it was like he wanted to help her and he wanted to show her that it was okay to be herself, right? And he wanted to fully embrace, like, uplifting her, right? Now, he did have a wife while he was doing that, so that was a little shady, Charles.
Shady acres.
That was a little shady, Charles. But, you know, it all made perfect sense to me because I just kept thinking, like, what was the significance of the flashback of his mom and his dad in that cabin in that beautiful snowstorm, okay? And then moving forward, he went crazy, right? And he started breaking up everything. He was tearing up everything because, you know, he owned all this stuff. He owned this newspaper. And listen, he did exactly what I would have done if I owned a newspaper. I would be out here doing the same thing. If I was him and I owned a newspaper, I would have been doing the same thing. Okay? Because why? Why else would you want to even own a newspaper if you couldn't be taking shots at people all the time? I would do that too. But when we found out who and what Rosebud was, right? Like, the movie kind of made it seem, right, like it was a symbol. Like it was an object. It was an object, right? Like, because it was his sled. It was the sled from the from the flashbacks that he was having, or maybe not him having, like, you know, just the flashbacks of the movie. But to me, it was more of a memory of a time when he was truly happy, when he did not have any type of worries, he didn't have any type of pressure, like none of those things, right? So the cinematology, did I say that right? Cinematology.
Cinematology.
I can't say that.
Yeah,
cinematology of the film was just out the roof because, one, the music was so dramatic. It was intense, but it was so sensitive. I mean, with the black and white film, it's like, you know, to me, that's already dramatic. And then, like, it just seemed to me like he was a loud character, but if the camera was like back here when he was being loud, it's a lot different than when he's like this and he's being loud, right? Because it's like, listen to me, hear this, this is very important. So I think this week's movie was a very good movie.
It was a good movie. Like, I kind of stopped. I stopped watching it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I lost interest. I'm sorry, but
that's because of the music.
Yeah, and the narrating is what I mean. I know that, like, that's how film was back then and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I respect it.
I love it.
I just couldn't get drawn to it. Where it was like a narrator sometimes, and then they were talking sometimes, and it was kind of
Yes, and then like the setting of the movie was really cool because, like, there was that little country setting, but like everything else was like city. So I was like really fast paced. And that's really all I can think of right now because I can't go over 10 minutes because then I'm going to have to do this again. So I hope you guys enjoy watching my video this week. And please, if there's anything that I can correct about my film analysis moving forward, please let me know. Thank you.